So please make sure that you go onto Canvas and download that tutorial letter. I have also uploaded the tutorial letter for the feedback on the assignment, so you'll be able to see that. And then on Monday, I will provide you detailed information about the exam in terms of the process, the format, the procedures, and everything that you need to know. Please feel free at any time. You can still send me an email, or if it have to do with the content, you can also have a chat with Christo. He is ready, he is available next week to assist you for that last little bit of a stretch towards the exam. So let us make it count, the last bit, and put the first subject in our bag. Just for those who may have not remembered, remember we're only writing exam for leadership, and we're writing an exam for management 400. For MET, the research module, the last one, you're not writing an exam. There will be a research proposal, and then you get feedback, and based on the feedback you redo, resubmit, that get assessed, and then if you succeed in that second proposal, then you are successful in completing that module or that subject as well. All right, so before I'm going to kick off this evening, I just want to share a few thoughts with you, a few last thoughts about leadership. Is there anybody maybe with any question, any complaints, any considerations, everything? Keep in mind that you can always write to me again in the box there, but let me just give an opportunity. Anybody with that, anything you just want to maybe share with us, maybe talk to us, maybe want to question or something, you can just unmute your mic and go ahead. All right. Okay. All right. It seems like everybody is quite on par. All right. I'm very happy. And guys, as I've mentioned earlier to you as well, you know, if you are unsure, you don't know, you have a question, remember you've got my number, you've got my email, and you'll see that I normally deal with any queries or questions. I deal with that on an urgent matter and try to help and assist you to make at least the journey for you as pleasurable as I can. But as they normally say, when you fly, there could be some turbulence along the way. So I hope that we don't hit any serious turbulence as we're going forward and we have a smooth flight. I think also because you've now done the first module, you know, the second are basically very much the same. So I think we are used to the process, the procedure. And then also, I did send also a voice note just to indicate to you that we are in the process. By tomorrow, the last textbooks and study guides will be couriered. It will still give you enough time before we start with the next module. So please just look out for that call from a strange number. Don't say it's a call center or something. Just please answer. It might be the courier services that's bringing your study guide. And that will be then for the last two modules. So please, ladies and gentlemen, just help us there to ensure that we receive, that you receive your study material in time. And as in the past, if by, I would say next week and Wednesday, you haven't received anything, please make urgent contact with either Nomsa or myself, and that we can just follow up and see where is your study material. And it may be delivered somewhere, or it may be on a desk somewhere. So please always, chat to us so that we can redirect our courier services we can ensure that you have your appropriate materials before we kick off with then module number 2. Right. And then also from my side, I want to thank everybody for your dedication and for your enthusiasm and your motivation for the way that you have done module 1 so far. You know, the online test, the assignment, we have received some good assignments, really good assignments. There are some people that was in the 80s they have received for assignments, so well done to those people. I also believe that I think all of us are capable of that. So for Management 400, you have then a big task. So let us roll in that good numbers for our second module as well. But again, lastly, thank you very much for putting in the effort, the time, doing your part. As I always say, the rewards of earning a qualification are very sweet and are very rewarding. And I also just want to indicate at this stage, and we will share this later on as well, that once you have completed your advanced diploma, do provide for you access to a honors degree. In the past, if you have started with diplomas and you would like then to change to a degree, you have to start right from the beginning again. And then we're talking about another 3-4 years. However, it has been changed so that when you finished your advanced diploma, it do provide you access to a honors degree for those who then envisage or plan to actually further their studies. And then once you've got an honors degree, obviously the road is then open towards a master's and then even further than that. But we can talk about that later again. All right, so if there's nothing from anybody there, any questions and things, I hope that everybody is doing well and that we're all in good spirit and good health. So for this session, I would like to just to focus a little bit on the question of ethical leadership and then also a little bit about entrepreneurial leadership as two quite important aspects. So for those, maybe just to recap, we have started off with looking at the traits, the leadership trait. What is leadership, obviously? And we've discovered there are many definitions of leadership and many different ways and how people describe leadership, how they try to explain leadership. And one of the things that we have picked up in leadership is that most of the way that people will describe it is correct. But what is quite important is that we just need to remember it's correct within a particular context. As I've mentioned also that there are numerous leadership definitions. There are many. Although they sometimes overlap, there are distinct differences. And it's probably the topic that there are a lot of research being done, but still there will be a lot of research being done. We have looked at the difference between leadership and management and have also realized the importance of having leaders as well as managers in an organization. You can't just have leaders. I maybe have mentioned it well documented case study of where a company in Cape Town, which is an ITC company, they were thinking that it is an excellent way of building an organization by appointing only leaders in an organization. And they have gone out and recruit people with distinct leadership skills and capabilities. And 2 years later, the company were bankrupt and closing down. And so, you know, as academics, we have investigated what has happened there. And it had become clear that they were not managers. Actually, the people were so much looking towards vision and strategy that nobody were doing the job. So don't think for one moment that there is not a place for managers and doing the basics of management, of planning, organizing, doing our leading every day, and doing our control of evaluation of what we need to do is absolutely important. We cannot all every time work on the vision and the strategy of the organization, although we are working towards that and what we want to become. But we also need people who can be, make their hands dirty. And they are as important as leaders. But we also have learned, I think, in terms of leadership, that you can lead every day. You can lead wherever you are. You can, in your daily engagement with your clients, you can demonstrate leadership. Specifically, where some of them, when they experience some difficulties and when they need some assistance, the way that you deal with the client, the way you treat, the way you engage with the client can demonstrate an amazing source of leadership, and the way you resolve that. I think back at one of my engagements with a company called Outsurance, for example, which the lady that was assisting me at that point, she couldn't help me, and she called in her immediate supervisor, and I still remember it did sound like a young gentleman, and I still remember the day and the way he resolved my issue. It was just absolutely amazing, and probably that's why I sticked around with Outsurance, although I can get people at places where I can get cheaper insurance. So my experience with the company, and the experience with the people, and the way they've resolved, and the leadership they have demonstrated at that moment when I needed, was for me a very strong thing to say I'll remain with this kind of company. Then we have learned about self-leadership, and I hope that many of you over this Christmas season have done some reflection about your own life, your own goals, your own vision, and I hope that some of you have made some good decisions about where you're heading, what you want to do, what you want to become one day when you grow up. And I always say, well, you know what, I haven't grown up yet, so I still have a little child in me, and it's also quite important. And I think normally during Christmas, and when we engage with our family, engage with friends, and when we also, realize it's the end of the year, we sometimes have time to reflect a little bit. I had a little bit of time because I went to the bushveld a little bit, to a private game lodge, and I had a bit of time to reflect a little bit and think about the whole year and what's happening and where I'm going and what I want to achieve and how I'm going to get there. And it was quite clear for me. And because I think I have in a sense of what I want to achieve in life, I had a meeting this morning with our Chief Executive Officer and our executive head. Not that important to talk to the Chief Executive Officer, but it was quite important because I had to make some decisions about my career and where I'm going and what I'm going to do and so on, specifically in Stadio. And because I had a very clear direction about what I want to achieve and how I would like to get there, I can just report that I had an incredible productive meeting, and everything I've asked this morning, I was given. And that's for me, again, an indication that if you have a clear idea about what you want to do in life, you have a clear idea about what you want to achieve in life, and you have mapped out that route for you, and this includes, ladies and gentlemen, not just yourself, but if you are married, you've got a partner, you've got children, and you engage with them and you talk to them and you help them to create it, becomes so much easier for other people to understand what it is you want to achieve. And then when they can make some contributions and helping and assisting you to get to that destination, and if you can be clear on that, it makes it so much easier for other people to help you in the process. And I've just experienced this morning, and I feel I just want to share that with you. And it's not because I'm great at all. I don't think so. I'm just a very much average bloke. But what I did learn about leadership is if you have a clear idea, if you have a clear purpose, if you have a clear direction about what you want, it becomes so much easier to communicate and to talk to other people about what it is that you would like to achieve. And then suddenly you will see that you may get the required support from whoever in the context in which you are operating, even in your own context within the organization. Sometimes you'll be surprised. It is when people do not really know where they are heading, really what they want to do in life, when it becomes incredibly difficult for anybody else, your husband, your wife, your partner, your children, to really support you in that. Because, I mean, if you don't know, how must I know? I don't have a crystal ball. I cannot read in a crystal ball. I cannot predict your future. I wish I could, but I can promise you I cannot. But if you have an idea about what it is you want to do, then it becomes so much easier for other people to actually support you in those endeavors. And then also a very important lesson there, ladies and gentlemen, that if you find that people then indicate to you, but they don't think you've got ability, or you want to accomplish what you're setting out, maybe time to rethink who is the people that's important in your life, who's the people that you would like to take with you, who's the people you would like to communicate. Don't let people drag you down unnecessarily. Then we also have talk about leadership traits, ladies and gentlemen. We've discovered that traits are not that more important. So it's not about how big or small you are, how loud you can talk. Are you an extrovert or an introvert? That's not a good indication of being a successful leader. It's more about behavior. It's more about how do you deal with situations, and how do ones deal with difficult situations and complex situations. So things like self-awareness, regulation, motivation, social skill, be able to talk, to communicate, and to share with people have become so much more important in leadership, as opposed to be louder than life and bigger than life and talk a lot. As I've mentioned to you, there were a lot of people, there are a lot of leaders in the world, and one of them, the founder and the creator of Apple, Steve Jobs, was a very introverted person. He didn't talk a lot, but oh boy, he had an idea, he had a plan, he had, where he was going. And we see that today in a highly successful company and a highly successful organization. And then we've also learned that leaders last legacies. They give credit, they accept responsibility. They don't the blame game. They don't run away if they made a mistake. They man and woman up and talk about it. And I think we also have said a little bit of charismatic and transformational leadership. Charismatic, ladies and gentlemen, is for me very much about how you engage with people, and to be able to communicate and sit down and talk to people and listen attentively and try to understand and try to make sense of what people really want to share with you. And I think that becomes quite important in today's life. So yeah, in the word of Martin Luther King, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. And I think I've just been to my auditor quickly for my tax and things, and we've sorted out everything there. And so we also have a little bit of a pity party about load shedding and all the problems and potholes, and I don't know what kind of thing. But at the end of the day, we've realized that we are here. We need to move forward. It doesn't help we're going to sit down and say that this mountain is way too big. We will not be able to get through this. I think it is now more than ever where we as a community and as a diverse community need to start standing together, supporting each other, start working together to make a success, not just of our companies we're working on, but to also make a success of our country, make a success. And I know for many of you, and even myself, I kind of like think that maybe this is way above my pay grade. I don't think I'm going to be able to get over this mountain And if you put on the news, I mean, you just hear all the negativity and you hear about things. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, you know, many of us have got one country, we've got one place where we can go, and we need to make it work. It doesn't matter what it costs. And please, everyone can make a difference. Anyone can make a contribution. Anyone can. And I think that we need to start demonstrating through our own behavior, for our own way that we're doing, small, that we can do things differently. And we do not have to do it as many other people are doing currently, that often appears in the news or often find themselves in a court of law being on the wrong side of the things. And I think this leads into me the question of ethical leadership. And I just want to go out there for a moment. Just go back here. Okay, then just to see if anybody was responding here. I see Romeo. Just out of curiosity, will we have application questions exam? Romeo, yes, definitely. Yeah, now you'll have application questions. All right, and in Sarah, there are 5 exams for pass exam canvas. Yes, there are. So you can definitely use those previous exam papers. They are absolutely important, absolutely important. And they will give you a good idea of how we ask questions, the type of questions. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that I did receive a request from one student to see the memorandum for the exam papers, the past exam papers. Unfortunately, it's policy that memorandums are not made available to any parties outside of the organization besides the lecturer and moderators. So that's a policy. So unfortunately, I don't have access to these memos. So unfortunately, I will not be able to provide them. However, in your preparation and while you're preparing, you are more than welcome to, say, for example, you've prepared and you've put some points together about how do you think approach a particular question. You're more than welcome to send Chris to, you can even send myself as well, just a short email and say, Henk, on this question, this exam paper, specifically maybe one that you are a bit unsure, you know, not all of them, because that might be a little bit difficult for us to work through all of them. But you might find there's 1 or 2 questions you're not 100% sure if you're on track there. You know, you've asked your colleagues and maybe they are also not. And you think that, okay, maybe if I just put a few ideas on paper and send it through to either Christy or myself, you're more than welcome to do that, as we then can give you an indication that, yep, you're on the right track, or wait, you must consider this or that as well. Okay, so that I opened the floor for that. All right, that's an open invitation. You can use that invitation. Don't provide us with lengthy questions, answers, sorry, because we don't really have all the time to work through all of them, but give us a short overview of what you think important is to address in the question, those key aspects that you think must come in the answer for that question, and we can quickly have a look and say, yep, you're on the right track, or no, you're not on the right track. So please, you can always use that opportunity. All right, so no. Ngalo, no multiple choice questions. They will only be set questions. You will see, I will show you a little bit later the exam guidelines, but you also will see tonight when you have it on your, when it comes onto Canvas, you will see that it indicates there clearly question 1 is like 30 marks, question 2, 10 marks, and it gives you the topics that you need to prepare for that particular question. So we will say to you in question 1, you must prepare, for example, leadership traits. Now, you're not going to exactly what we're going to ask, but you will say the question will be about leadership traits, or it will be about ethical leadership. So you will be clearly, you will have a clear idea of what kind of topics the question will be about, although you're not going to exactly what a question, how the question will be formulated, but it also gives you an idea of the things that you do not have to prepare for the exam, because once you eliminate, you'll see there's a few things being eliminated in the process. All right, so as I've mentioned, I think this all tie up then to the question of ethical leadership. And I would like, first of all, for everyone to respond a little bit to my question I'm going to ask you now. And I would like you just to type for me something. And I think we are quite in agreement that we are really struggling with ethical leadership in South Africa, and that we often hear on the news and programs and TV and radio that there are a lot of people talking about we need to create ethical leaders. We need to make sure that people react, behave more in an ethical way. So my question to all of you is, what will it take to make sure we have ethical leaders in South Africa? What do we need to do from an organizational perspective, from a personal perspective? What do you believe do we need to do to ensure we have ethical leaders in our country and organization, in our churches, in our schools, and wherever in our communities? So think a little bit about the question. I'm going to give you like a minute or three, and then just write something down for me. Try to keep it short. Don't make it too long. And let me see, because I'm quite interested to hear what um, people think we might be able to do. Give us some ideas. Right, let me give you about 3 minutes. Buzz a little bit and write there a little bit down. Let me see. Right, so still a few people typing there for us. So please, if I can have everyone's input on this question, it will be great. Right, give another 30 seconds. I see a few people still writing there. All right, let me give another 30 seconds. It seems like almost everybody have written something there. All right, so while the last people are writing down a few thoughts there, let me start sharing some of the things that we have mentioned there. See, sorry, you've said there, sorry, no. Servant leaders, servant leaders. Yep, I absolutely agree. I think it is important that we create and that we train to be people to servant leaders, realizing that as part of our leadership and potential leadership is to serve other people, to help other people. As I've mentioned earlier, the fact that we have some talents in life, that often we got these talents not for ourselves, but talents that we can help and support other people. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm quite aware that many of us, have done a lot for other people in life, and sometimes they have disappointed us, and we're putting a lot of effort, um, and then they do things that we can't believe this is happening. But you know what? I always believe that is the way life is, and that's their journey and some of the life. So I always say that even though we may have been hurt or we may have been disappointed along the route, it doesn't give us. There mustn't be the reason as why we stop being servant, being helping other people. Make an example. I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. I think, as Elias, you mentioned, consequence management. I think that it becomes absolutely important that we must make examples of people that demonstrate this kind of behavior that is inappropriate and behavior that is negatively impacting the organization, our communities, our societies, our staff, negatively in the sense that it is going to lead to the downfall of organization. The people is going to lose their jobs. People is going to lose money. Those are things that is unacceptable. Uh, I don't mind if you want to destroy your own life or whatever you want to do because you're an adult and you make the choice. But if you do through your actions destroying other people's life, and if you are specifically in a position of power, influence, and you use that to um, make life hard for other people or destroying other people's life, then we need to see that you answer for that. You must answer for that. I absolutely agree with that. From a personal perspective, I think laws and regulations, process and procedures are absolutely 100% important. And again, we have to see that consequence. Warren say following through on what the rules, laws, and consistency taking about without acting means nothing. Again, we hear rules, laws, and make sure people do that. Make sure your consequence of your actions. Make an example of you. I absolutely agree. For me, it starts from a selection process. Tasreka, I agree with you. We just hope that obviously the people that make the choices are ethical in their way of doing as well. And in the process, we can eliminate people that is not really complying with a high level of ethics. There are policies in place. We're supposed to grow, drill, and guiding, and should conduct ourselves. And all right. And I think also, ladies and gentlemen, that one of the things we need to look at is that specifically the companies and organizations that have an oversight function, or people that works in organizations that have an oversight function, either internal auditing or external auditing. I think there's a great responsibility even on those people to ensure that we make sure that the way we do things is without question, and that we do the right things, even in the small little things, and that we also then demonstrate to people what is the correct kind of way of dealing with or doing or thinking about things. And then if your house are clean and order, I think you can do it. Now, I'm not saying we can all make a mistake, but you know, a mistake made more than once becomes a habit, and it's not a mistake anymore. I normally use a very simple example, ladies and gentlemen, and maybe I've mentioned that. I just want to mention again, when my brother's son was studying with us, and he was a student for one of my subjects, I have decided that I'm not going to mark his assignment. I will give him guidance, not a problem. So as he phoned me, you know, I'll give him guidance as any other student. But I'm not going to mark his assignment, and I'm not going to mark his exam paper, because blood is thicker than water. And I've said that to him as well. And I said to his father as well, and my brother, and said, listen, guys, I'm going to ask somebody else to assess his work, because I might not be objective. And I think there's that little things that demonstrate that you are taking things to do the right thing serious. And I believe that that's the little things that even in your own workplace, that you need to look at, how do you deal with those little things? Because that is the things that will demonstrate to people what is the correct ethical way of doing things. And Oma, policies in place. Yeah, I agree. Consequence. Encourage a culture of accountability, consequence management, principles, morals, and values. Yes, 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 yeah. I think some of us have grown up, you know, being taught, you know, very specific good values and being honest and things like that. But somewhere along the line, the train derailed, and it just landed on different stations and different places, and often, you know, those kind of things. Yeah, we have to bring those kind of people back. Regular training, absolutely. We need to train people, because I've also seen in life that a lot of people on the small things, they sometimes don't know that what I'm doing right now might compromise my values or my integrity. And I want to give you a simple example here to illustrate and to demonstrate this. Normally, when I do ethical training, specifically for government, and when it comes to like tender procedures and things like that, I normally ask people that I know that's going to be involved in the tender procedures, and I say, when because sometimes you know, you start to learn the companies that tender for you for work, and I normally ask them. I said, listen, if you and ladies, this is also for gents, but I'm just going to use the example for the ladies. But gents is also applicable to you. You can also receive a bunch of flowers. And I always ask them, I said that if you know that you have an impact or an influence, or you're going to play a role in the tender procedure, and this person or entity that's going to put in a tender is bringing you a flower or a bunch of flowers, you may think that, oh my goodness, this is the most wonderful gentleman. Maybe he is, maybe I can get him to marry me or something like that, you know. Wow, what a great gesture. Ladies and gentlemen, This guy is playing you. He is see what he can get out of you. He's testing the waters. Because if you accept the flower, what will you accept next? And the next time. And the next time. And I always use this example to demonstrate to people how easy you think a good gesture that you think is an honest gesture can actually lead you to be in a huge amount of trouble. This is the way some of these people operate. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the way criminals operate. They test you. And I think that many of you in the bank sector specifically may have been encountered this. You know, they start with small things. They test you to see to what extent will you compromise your value system, your integrity, your honesty, and they do it by small things. And you think, but this is a kind of nice gesture. Here's a gentleman giving me a nice flower, or gentleman the other way around, you know, a nice lady giving you a little box of chocolates or giving you something, you know, which she knows you like. And you think, oh, wow, what a nice kind of person. Guys, make a mental note. This may be the start of a journey to lead you into much more serious things. Non-adherence to governing rules. So again, Kolibowalik says they have governing rules. I also would like to put there, have a code of ethics, communicate, talk to people, absolutely, and then accountability is there. So I think, guys, if we summarize, I think what I notice a lot of us are mentioning here is obviously is the question of consequence management, making sure you've got rules and procedures in place, making sure you have training, look at the kind of small things. Now, I think we all know about these kind of things I've got on the screen here, what you see on the slide, your bribery, deception, falsification, personal use. Yeah, you know, this is kind of all things. I normally ask people, you know, that little pen you get in the office, do you take it home and give it to children because they don't have a pen for you to go to school? Keep in mind, those pen is not for personal use, it's for office use. And again, sometimes these things start by the small things. I remember at one point I was training a lot of in government, a lot of internal auditors, and I asked them the question. I said, "You make a sum for me, work it out for me. If every government official in South Africa, every government, you can work it out. If every ABSA employee take one official pen every week home for 1 year, do the calculation for me. Do the calculation. I'm pretty sure we can do a lot with that money. They have done a study in Namibia, which I have seen also. They've created a video, and it was about the transport, obviously, the next thing. And what they've done was to determine how often do public officials use transport to do private things. You know, you need to go and deliver something there, but then, you know, just around the corner is the bank. I can just quickly stop there. And they actually have calculated how many times people have used the vehicle for personal use. And it was not on the route. They have to deviate a little bit. And sometimes it's just literally a block, né? And ladies and gentlemen, they actually have put a number to that. And it was amounting to a number of million Namibian dollars. So we may think it's just something small, taking a pen home. Ladies and gentlemen, what if everybody do that? Because that pen has not been given for you for personal use. It's been given you to do your job in organization. All right. And if all of us start doing that, you know, what is the total consequence of this, what we are doing? So I think we just need to think a little bit about those kind of things. All right. And then I would like to conclude this by just talking about the question of looking at leaders in terms of ethics, and then also creating a code of ethics. So make sure that ethical conduct becomes a priority in organizations. So what you need to find is that top management, they need to be the first people that start talking about this. And they need to demonstrate through the way they do things, the way they say things, the way they develop policies, and the way they initiate discussion, that they take ethical conduct in the organization serious. So in other words, doing the right things. Once they started that, it can help to create a snowball effect where other people can say, but if I am going to behave out of this a pathway that was created by top management, I probably are going to stand out very, very easy. All right. Also, communicate your expectations. Tell staff members about what is ethics. Train them. Raise ethical concerns. Share with them. Talk to them. Put it up as a KPI, for example. All right. So those are some of the little things that we can start doing to ensure. And if we see somebody behaving in an unethical way, and I know, ladies and gentlemen, it's always difficult, but to either speak to the person or to report the person, and I know sometimes have consequences, and I'm not saying you must unnecessarily put your own life in danger by doing that, because we have seen now again the lady that in the Department of Health that was shot because she was speaking out, and also the vice chancellor of one of our universities. So do not necessarily put your life into danger, but I think that we can definitely start doing certain things by talking about ethical conduct, demonstrating that we are willing to do the right thing, irrespective of everybody else that's going to do the wrong thing. All right? Show people you're not going to go with the masses. I am going to go with what is the right thing to do. And then, ladies and gentlemen, very important, have a discussion with people about what is the right thing to do. Because sometimes in ethics, there are sometimes clear rules, what is wrong and what's right. But depending on also the way we've grown up and our background and sometimes our culture and things, there are certain things that we have created some tolerance for, although it might not be 100% the right thing to do. But we started to create some tolerance. And because we created tolerance, we kind of like turn a blind eye, or we get involved in that because, you know, it's not that serious. This is almost like taking the pin. You know, that's not a serious thing. You know, R1.50, R2, R3. Absa is not going to become bankrupt in next month. You know, that's the kind of arguments. But at the end of the day, that's not right. Okay. Unless any one of you want to argue with me and to say it is right. Okay. Because it's not your pen. You didn't pay for that pen. And it cannot be right. So again, I'm coming back to the whole question about not doing anything negative to somebody else, or doing something that impact on the existence of somebody else and negatively. In this context, I sometimes use the example here, and I just want to get back here quickly to my screen here. I often use the example of people. And you would have remember I did talk about the question of when my actions influence other people negatively. So in other words, whatever I do might negatively have negative consequences for other people. So if I steal somebody else's money, I mean, it's going to have a devastating effect. If I do bribery, if I launder money, some people it's going to have a devastating effect on some people. It is going to ruin the life of certain people, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I always like to use the example here, and I normally challenge my groups, and you guys can, if you want to respond to it, you can be more than welcome. I always say to people, if you decide as an adult being that you want to have a party at your home, and you decide that you invited a few friends over, and we're going to decide we're going to have a nice party. We're all going to get naked, and we're going to run around the house and we're going to do what we're going to is that unethical? Is that unethical? Is that wrong? All right, let me see. Let me hear. Put on your mics a little bit. Chat to me. So you invited a few friends. You come over and we are all adults and we decide, let's drop the clothes and run around the house and do what we like and enjoy each other and so forth and so on. Is that wrong? All right, is my question too tough one? Let's hear, put on the mics. Say yes, no. Come, Lizelle, what do you say? Rulin? Hello, guys.
My viewpoint on this is as follows.
Yes.
All of us is raised in a certain way.
Yes.
So for me, it's going to be wrong. Somebody else maybe grow up in that environment, and for them it can be acceptable.
All right, Rulin, very important. So in other words, somewhere along the line, you have learned a certain set of values that say to you that is wrong. Do you impact anybody negatively if you do that? I'm not talking about everybody's consensual. There is no harm done. Everybody's happy afterwards. And you don't impact somebody negative afterwards. Nobody feel negative about that. You see, in this case, some people might argue and say, well, that might not be unethical because I don't impact anybody's life negatively. I didn't do anything wrong to somebody else. I didn't do it. All right. So what Rulina is referring to is her own personal morals and values, and it may comes from the fact that she may have grown up with a certain belief system in the home, and that belief system have told that that's inappropriate to do those kind of things. Yes, if I turn the situation around and I said you've invited some minors to your home, and you've decided to get all things there, and we know what is the impact on minors for these kind of things, ladies and gentlemen. We know that minors may not know how to deal with this kind of situation because they haven't grown up. They're not adult enough. They haven't learned how to deal with these kind of things. You may have a devastated impact on their life. As a group of adults, no, as long as they accept before coming to the party, should be acceptable to all. That's Rose, right? Yes. Well, you know what? I agree to some extent there. I'm not saying that the fact that, listen carefully, the fact that I'm saying I agree doesn't say I'm doing that, all right? So don't make some assumptions, all right? But the question is in terms of ethics, and that's how difficult it sometimes is to understand ethics, is that if we have consensual people, they're all adults, nobody's negative impact, nobody get hurt, there were no harm done to anybody. The question is that unethical to do it. Lynn says it's got a balance system, which we absolutely respect. I think that's important and we need to respect that. But at the same time, we may find people and say, well, you know what? I'm not negatively impacting somebody. It doesn't hurt anybody. Nobody's harmed in the process. So what can be so much wrong ethically in doing that? Elias, what do you say? Romeo, Lizelle.
I totally agree, especially where there are kids that are not used, and you start teaching them different and wrong things, and it starts with morals, your frame of reference, how you grew up, whether that is correct or wrong. So it depends on values of different people within that environment. Thank you.
All right, so some of us indicating, well, okay, great. I think this sounds a little bit unethical to me to do this kind of thing. And some people say, well, this is kind of like ethical. So, but here, what we're using here is probably our religious framework. And keep in mind, I'm not just referring to Christianity. There are many other religious frameworks that indicate that this might not be an acceptable way of behaving. And it might be unethical to do that kind of thing in the process. And this is what I'm just trying to demonstrate to you, how difficult it sometimes is to talk about ethics in terms of what is right and what is wrong. So here I'm giving an example where some people will say, but there's nothing wrong with this. As long as consensual, nobody gets harmed, nobody gets. So technically, if we look at the various definitions or frameworks of how to understand ethics, we can probably argue and say, but this is not really unethical to do this. Hence, there's other people that say, but no, I'm not going to take part because I feel that it might infringe on my belief system, might negatively impact my belief system, and I am not willing to compromise my belief system, which is 100% correct. And again, so you see, for some right, for some wrong. So you see how important it is that we need to talk about ethics to understand really what is the kind of wrong. Certain things we know is right and wrong, but that's not the things that sometimes is important. Sometimes those finer things that we have in our life. Sarah, what do you say? Let's get all naked and run around.
I think it all depends on which friends you bring along. But
Oh,
no, I actually don't definitely agree with the group when I say it comes down to values and morals and how you were raised. I mean, I wouldn't definitely not get naked and run around in my house with other people.
Yeah.
I wouldn't find that very ethical, if you want to call it for a better word. So probably not. No.
Okay. All right. You see, Sarah, this is important because you get some people, what they will do is they will start to argue to say, but you know what, I'm going to take a bit of this guy's money, né? I'm just going to take 10 Rand or 100 Rand because he's got like 100 million. He's not going to miss this Rand. Is that right or wrong? You see, another difficult question. Is it really going to harm him if I take 100 Rand? Will he? He's not even going to miss this 100 Rand. Sarah? I see you on mic and muting your mic.
I would definitely say that's unethical. You should never take something that doesn't belong to you.
Well, actually, so 100% right. So it does not belong to you. Therefore, you don't have the right to take that. Doesn't matter how you're going to try to argue this. It will remain wrong. So it doesn't matter if this person have got 600,000 times more than you, and the person will not even miss a little bit. And you see, sometimes in ethics, this is the way people reason. Is that, but this person will not miss that. He's got 10 vehicles. So, you know, he's not going to miss the one. And he got nuts. He can just buy another one. So why will he? So sometimes people use that try to justify the way they behave and the way they react. So I think in terms of ethics, ladies and gentlemen, it is quite important that one have to sit down. What is your own morals and values in life? Okay. And those morals and values can be things like you have shared with me, like, I don't take anything that belongs to me. You've got it. It's in place. I'm not going to do harm to anybody else. Got it. All right. Pin it down. So what you're doing is you're creating for yourself the boundaries in terms of which you can operate. So you almost have to sit as an individual and talk about it and say, this is the no-nos. This is the things that I will not compromise. This is the principles. This is my values. This is the thing. They could come from various aspects. I'm not just talking about what the law is saying, because here, for example, you know, in South Africa, and let me just focus in the law say that it's my words now mingling up here. No, asking to be what do you call it? Put down, killed, to be. Somebody help me quickly. If you ask a doctor to put you down because you've got terminal illness, what do you call that in English, guys?
Euthanasia.
Ah, yes, no, if it's a late day today. You guys got it. Now, in South Africa, that's illegal. Cannot be done. All right. And I host a whole debate. But in other places in the world, you can do that. If you want to go to Switzerland, you can go and do that. You can ask a doctor there to, if you're terminally ill, to put you down and over and done. But in South Africa, it's still not been done. And I know it's a whole debate again. So again, it's the ethical issues. And there was other night, there was a whole debate. And it's one of the most difficult debates about can people make their own decision about what they want to do in life? All right. Okay. the same with the use of cannabis, for example. All right. And the use of cannabis for various aspects. I'm not talking about hardcore drugs, which we know scientifically have a total destroying effect on you. I'm talking about people using a bit of cannabis now and then and smoking a joint and things like that. Again, some of you might say, and again, but it's a decision because I don't harm anybody if I do that. And my whole behavior is not one that I'm stealing my family's money to get this, to get a high, or I do that, or when I'm high, I hurt people, I say nasty things and things. Then often, guys, when it comes to cannabis, then I often need to say we need to rather make liquor illegal in South Africa, because liquor and the abuse of alcohol creates much more family problems than the use of cannabis. All right. And if you don't believe me, just read up a little bit about it. You see how I'm talking about scientific evidence. Cannabis doesn't necessarily, there are very few evidence of making people aggressive and hurting their families and things like that. But look at liquor, look at alcohol. I mean, it destroys families. So how ethical is this? All right. So guys, I think you're getting the message. I think you're getting messages. Any last thought on the whole question of ethics? All right. Quite a difficult question, quite a difficult thing to deal with. It's not that easy to always deal with it. And that's why we often say, let's have a debate about it. Let's determine what is the basic things we need to do, and let us work on that. Here is a very interesting thing, isn't it? Your ideas are outstanding, Bedford. I'm glad I thought of them. Now, guys, I think you can see, yeah, and this may be very applicable to the workplace. Now, how many times do we use the thought of somebody else and we present it as if it's our own thought that we were thinking without recognizing? All right, ladies and gentlemen, you are unethical if you do that. It is not your fault. You did not think about that. So give acknowledgement. I think that makes a great leader. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to spend too much time on emotional intelligence, but I think what is quite important, maybe just be aware of your own emotions. Be aware that we are emotional human beings, that we do have emotions. We have a lot of different kind of emotions, and it is our ability to deal with our emotions and I know sometimes the word control your emotions is a difficult one, but it is often our ability to control our emotions that will determine how successful we will be. In a recent study that was done through, I think, the Northwest University, they have asked some of the top leaders, what is one of the characteristics or something that behavior from people, what you believe that good managers and good leaders, and they were all in agreement that managers or leaders that have the ability to control their emotions and the adverse circumstances are the ones they want on their management teams. Right. So basically what it means is that if the chips are down and things are going wrong, we would like somebody who can stay cool-headed, calm, think through it, work through it, find a solution, get to the other point, put in the solutions, get it fixed. And there's an incredible strong notion from top guys in industry and organizations that say that this is the kind of managers they would like. This is the kind of leaders they would like in the organizations. Now, I know that all of you, like myself, we lose our cool sometimes, and we sometimes say things we're not supposed to, but it's so important, ladies and gentlemen, that we have to learn about emotions and how to control the emotions, even in difficult situations. So, it takes effort. It's not just an easy thing, because sometimes your heart overrule your mind, if I can put it in that way, because sometimes the emotions comes from feel like it comes from the heart, although the mind is triggering it and something in the mind. But because it's so quickly the two things, you sometimes cannot differentiate between where it comes from. But what's quite important is that we need to learn how to stay calm and the very difficult situations, deal with it appropriately. Now, many people will say, but am I not going to bundle up my emotions? Because I need to let my emotions go and I need to get rid of my emotions. I need to, because they're going to become too much and maybe I'm going to explode one day. And that, you don't want to see that, because that is going to be a terrible thing. And ladies and gentlemen, you're 100% correct. Because again, if you do not then learn how to deal with that emotions, you may be a ticking time bomb that will explode somewhere. So you need to find ways how to deal with it. One of the ways is that if you ask people, they will say to you, some people say to you, I go to the gym. I go to the gym. Because when I go to the gym, I can work in the gym and I can think and say all kind of things in my mind about what have happened today. And when I'm tired at the end, I've kind of have all this emotions work out of my system. And I just kind of like restore myself to a level of calmness where I can think clearly. Some people like to say, I just need to go for a walk, or just give me a moment, or give me evening, or somebody have to go and sit down and talk to somebody. So what I'm saying is that, guys, the idea is not to bundle up your emotions, not try to keep them, but try to find a way to better utilize, because emotions create energy. And because that energy could be draining, it could really, really suck the life out of you. And I'm talking about different kind of emotions here. Anger can make you so tired. Frustration, that you are not able to focus. So find a way to deal with your emotions. Find a way. You must recognize the emotion, give it a name, give it a tag, know what is this emotion, understand the emotion. And if you don't understand emotion, go and read up. Ask people, go to a counselor, go to a psychologist. There's nothing wrong. And say, I want to understand this emotion, because I feel every time when I have to do this, I have a level of anxiety and I don't know what to do with this. Go and see a psychologist. They are trained, ladies and gentlemen. They will help you to recognize the emotion. What does the emotion means? To understand the emotion and to find ways in dealing with the emotions. Now, I'm not saying that you're obviously not trying to be emotionless, because you're not going to get that. That's an impossible state to be. But we need to recognize and know how to deal with our emotions. And I think that is quite important. And that is the lesson that I would like to leave with everybody. Right. Okay. I did talk about leadership, power, and influence. I'm not going to talk a little bit there. In terms of power, we all know that there are different forms of power, and I think that's quite important. Most of us know position power. We know managers on top of us, they were giving legal, legitimate, there's the word legitimate as well. Because of their position, they have legitimate power. But some people can reward you negatively or positively. So they've got power. Some people use coerciveness. Some people are experts. You're getting people expert in the field, and they kind of like influence you and have a level of power by saying, how many often do I hear that person can say, yeah, but the experts have said the following. Yeah, all right. So in other words, they've got some power in terms of making decisions. So let's recognize that there are different forms of power, and make sure that what you do with this power, because you can use this power in a negative way. I always say to managers and organizations, and here's a very important lesson I want to learn every one of you. The reason why the organization have given you legitimate power in your position, the reason why the organization is doing that you can say yes or no for certain things, is to help to remove the barriers for your staff members so they can do their job properly. You haven't been given legitimate power or position power so that you can make people's job more difficult. And I think many of you can say, I know a few people that falls into that category. They use their power to make everything more difficult in life. That's not the reason why you've received the power. You've received the power because of the fact that you can remove the barriers for people to them to be able to do their job properly. All right, because you've got the power to buy something or to influence somebody else or to say yes or to say no. Now, I'm not saying that you must say yes for everything. Please don't get me wrong, né? But what's important that should you know that a person is saying something or asking something that's not within the context of what we can, or you don't have the power, then we need to be open and honest, like you guys have said earlier. Be open, talk to that, communicate, tell the person that, you know, I don't have the power, I need to ask, or the reason for my decision is, and that's why. How often do we get managers that say, do that, but I don't give you a reason? And I think many of you will associate with this, that so often you find that. Now, let them be, ladies and gentlemen. I think more important is that, and I've learned in life that somebody asks me and I make a decision, as that I always want to give them a reason for why I'm making a decision. And it just become important for me. Because I know if a person understands why I make a decision, then the person is in a better position to decide. But whoa, the fact that a person haven't decided in favor of me is being justified, and I understand that. And I think sometimes that. So try to learn something small. Maybe just here, this year, you must say, you know, when I say no to a client or I say no to somebody, I'm just going to tell them, why do I say no? Give them legitimate reasons. And if you can't give legitimate reasons, I think you need to think careful about why you want to say no, ne? So just think about that for a moment. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I think lastly, oh yeah, then on team leadership, guys, is that you guys can I think work a little bit and study a little bit on the team leadership. I'm not going to go too much in detail on that. And the last thing I want to share is about the question of entrepreneurial leadership. And what we need to see as well in South Africa and across the world, as then the possibility of growing more entrepreneurs and seeing more entrepreneurs coming up in the world, and being able to do their own thing, being able to set up their own businesses, being able to have the competence to create something new in the world, create something new where you can start employing people. I've been watching a show here on TV where they come up with some great South African stories. Last night there was a story about a young guy. He had very little money, but he started to decide that he wanted to do designer watches. My goodness gracious, ladies and gentlemen, the most amazing watches. And the interviewer asked him, so how did you do it? He said, I've used YouTube. This is where I've learned how to do this. And he creates the most amazing watches. He actually now is becoming international recognized. People overseas are starting ordering some of his watches. They are incredibly nicely done, all handcrafted, most amazing. And that is the kind of leadership that we would like to see. I also know there was a young guy with the 350 grand. He started with an ice cream parlor or an ice cream something in one of our informal settlements. And apparently he's doing a great, amazing job. So he decided, you know, so we need to see more of that kind of entrepreneurial leadership coming up. And I often say to us, specifically for our young people, is we need to start to learn people to become a little bit more entrepreneurial leadership. All right. Leadership is about being of service to others, not being served by others. Be a mentor, not being a boss. And I think that is probably the most important message that I want to leave you guys there with. Any questions, guys? Anything you want to share? Anything you want to say before I'm just going to use the last few minutes to look at some of the exam things? All right. Was the sessions useful, guys? Yes or no?
Yes, thank you.
Great stuff there. Justin, what are you saying there? Kalibole, Lizelle, Omar? Right. Okay, I see some thumbs up and things like that. You can also, if I missed the point somewhere, you're more than welcome to say to me, I'm a big boy. I will only cry once I stop the recording. I'll start to cry, but then tomorrow morning I'll feel okay again. All right. So guys, know we can always be honest about things, and as I said from the beginning, be open, be honest, talk to me, talk to each other. Let us talk about things. All right, let me just quickly stop this presentation here. I just want to stop that sharing here quickly. And I just want to see, I hope I can get it up now because I've opened it. You might now see this is all my exam papers, but don't worry, I'm not going to open them. Let's see if I can get hold of that little document. Sorry. Okay, guys, can you see the exam info, the document? Can somebody say yes, no?
It's very small on the one side. No.
If I make it now much bigger, how does it look now?
Still not.
Okay, let me just have a look here quickly. I know sometimes when you bring up a Word document, it is sometimes a little bit, it's always a challenge a bit. All right, let me do the following. Because obviously, I mean, all of you can read and you can work through the document on your own. So what I just want to do is I'm just going to share a few thoughts from the document. And the only reason why I'm doing this is just to demonstrate to you that the document that will be uploaded after our sessions are very clear in terms of what you can expect within the exam. So I'm just going to share with you a bit of information. So for example, we will indicate, will we use previous questions, assignment questions or previous exam questions? And the answer is yes, we may actually use. And that's why it's so important that we work through some of those previous question papers that's available on Canvas. Well, we talk about a 3-hour session. There's 8 questions, and then Chris to 100 mark always. And then Krista will break it down for you guys to say there's one question 1 will be 10 marks. Question 2 will be times 2, 30 marks, each with sub questions. And question 3 will be 8 times 10 marks questions. So what he's doing is he's just breaking it up to say to you how many questions are going to be in the exam and the number of questions that you may expect. Then he also says you may be required to write examples. All right, so that's quite important. And that's why also I have tried in my presentations to give you a lot of examples so that at least then you know that you have a few examples that you can work from. And then he goes further and then he, sorry, I need to apologize. I do see that in question 1, there will be some true or false questions, all right. And question 2, multiple choice questions. I do apologize for that. I see you do have some of those questions. I personally only received it a while back and I didn't read it properly. So there will be some true, false questions and some multiple choice questions. For this, he said the topics that you must study for the multiple choice and for the true, false questions, he gives you the topics. He said, look at theories of leadership, general traits, multicultural, authentic leadership, functional, ethical leadership. So he gives you a number of topics where from that topics, he is going to ask the true, false and the multiple choice questions. All right. So the most important part is this, just read through, must make sure you understand that, because often with true and false and multiple choice, it's about understanding the particular topic. And then he said in question 3, 8 count 10 marks per question. So the topics for questions 3 to 8, and then he listed topics here. And I see he's got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 topics that you've listed. So so you need to prepare yourself. So what is quite important here is if you prepare for the exam, say for example, he is talking about ethical leadership, and I always use this. What I do is to sometimes use what I call mind maps. So I always say that ethical leadership is, for example, this, and then I will say, branching out the definition of ethical leadership with a keyword. But also another thing is the question of the role of a manager in ethical leadership, of a leader. Another one will be what will be kind of ethical behavior. I do normally a mind map, and I do the keywords, because the idea is not to try to memorize everything. You can't. Not even I can do that. I really cannot memorize everything. But the important thing is that if you talk, for example, ethical leadership, try to study, find the keywords, the most important words, and make sure that you can explain the concept of the keyword that you are preparing for the exam. We don't expect you to write things word for word, guys. And I mean, it's not the first exam you're writing, and I think you guys will know that, but I also just need to emphasize that. So at least you know that we're not expecting you for word. It's not going to work like that. So the most important thing is write down some keywords. Make sure you understand the keywords. Make sure you can explain them in your own words. And then very, very important, if he asks you a question and you can't remember all the theory, I don't know what in your textbook, but you are able to explain the concept by means of an example, please do that. Please do that. You may not get the full marks, but you may get some marks, because we will read through the example and say, okay, no, well, you've got a good example here. At least I think it gives an idea that you do understand the concept, so we can give you 1 or 2 or 3 marks for that. So use the concept of examples. And then also, if you do have the theory, always just give an example. I think it's always just appropriate, because you might think the question don't ask you for example, but maybe it actually require. So always bring the example in. All right. Then try to answer all the questions. Don't leave out a question. Okay. You don't have to answer the questions in a particular order. You don't have to, okay? You can start with question 3, then question 5, then question 6. It doesn't matter, all right? Okay. So keep in mind, you're going to type up. I'm going to give you all of those details on Monday. You will type it up, and you're going to submit it online. No, sorry, you'll type while you're submitting online. So you're going to be busy doing the questions as we go along. But answer all the questions. Don't leave out a question. Also, look at the marks allocated to a question. As a rule of thumb, there's not an exact science. As a rule of thumb, I normally look at the 5 marks as probably about 1/3 of a page. That's approximately about 5 marks. So one can easily answer a 50-mark question on 1 page, all right? But if you're not going to use a page and a little bit, that's not going to break the bank. But I don't expect that if you have a 50-mark question and you write like 1 paragraph, 2 paragraphs, you're going to get 15 marks for that. That's not going to happen, all right? So first answer the questions you know very well, but just make sure, and I see that often, that I know this question so well, I can write 10 pages, but the question only count 10. Now, keep in mind that all the other 9 pages, so if I look at it, the whole thing, you might get your 10 marks, but that's not the problem. The problem was you have used the time that you need to allocate to other answers. And this is when you run out of time. So look at your mark allocation. As I say, a rule of thumb, about 1/3 of a page, half a page, 5 marks, approximately. Okay, guys? So just keep that in mind, all right? So don't go over that. So if you have like a 10-mark question, Don't write 2 pages or 3 pages. It's way too much. And the only thing you're going to do is you're going to limit your time for the other questions. I think that's quite important. All right, so remember that. And then, even if you do not know the answer, you come to the last question. I say, Disney, you write anything that you think that can work. All right, write anything about leadership. All right. It's my task and Chris's task to read through all the work that you've done. And I've seen oftentimes that when students, that's right, there's still a possibility of 1 or 2 marks coming out. And that may be just the 1 or 2 that you need to pass or to get a distinction. All right. Just the last thing, the one thing I said about the answering all the questions, guys, I have seen it for many years, almost for 20 years. Students that answer only some of the questions and answer them very well often do not pass the exam paper because they do not make enough marks up. Students that answer all the questions have a greater opportunity of passing the exam paper. So always keep that in mind. So also remember that we're not going to penalize you in terms of things like language, spelling, because it's not a language test, right? But again, don't write in such a way that we cannot read a sentence. We don't know what is the sentence. Please try to write meaningful sentences, all right? Refrain from listing things, right? Because the questions is not going to ask you to list things. So if the question don't say list, don't list. Give full descriptions, full paragraph, full sentences. And then there was a question I think somebody asked about. Let me just get to my questions quickly there. A template? No. You will just type. Rami, you'll just type up. You'll type up the answers. Okay. Question 1, answer. Question 2, answer. Question 3, answer. Right. Okay. So there's no template or anything you're going to use. And the reason also we're not providing a template because templates take space, they take any sort of things up. So typically like a blank piece of paper, question 1, and this is just very important, ladies and gentlemen, just make sure that you number your questions correctly. Please, that's important. So make sure that you have question 1. So I always say, start each question on a new page, all right? So if you have question 1 and you have only, say, half a page, do not start question 2, go to the next page and start question 2 on the top. So every question starts on the top. If, for example, in your case, you're going to type it, so it's not going to be that important because normally when people write, I normally say to them, even if you have a full page, leave out a little bit because you may later, but in this case, you can just move it on because you're going to type up the answer. So that's not going to be a challenge. So provide full questions. On your question number on the top, answer, next question, next page. All right. No particular order, doesn't matter. You don't have to do it in that way. You can start with any question, but the only thing we just ask is that don't start with question 1 and then do question 2 and 3, and then you still have something about question 1, and then you just on page 5, you continue with question 1. Now we will pick it up, but it just makes it very difficult for us when we do the assessment and when we mark your question is to pick that up. All right, so that's my little bit about the exam. Any questions, guys? Come, please ask me any questions.
Henk and Sarah. So is this an online test or venue test? Okay, online.
Yeah, it's going to be online. This is where we are at the moment, that it will be an online, and that's what I've mentioned. Then I will send you through all the details and everything. My planning is due to on Monday, so at least that we have a whole week of sorting out if anybody have any questions or anything about that.
Okay, so we'll basically do the proctor. We have to have the extension. We're going to make sure that our Google Chrome's working, etc., like Molpark.
Correct.
Sorry, there was a second question. I'll think about it.
No problem. You can always throw me an email as well. But it's going to be like a proctor exam. It's going to be online. We will have a number of people on standby to assist as well, guys. So I already today had a meeting with our IT department. So I'm going to have IT people on standby. We will have so I'm trying now to work that we finalize everything on Monday in terms of what you need, what I need, what everybody needs, so we can sort out all the logistics for that, and make sure that we are ready early next week for you to do the exam, and to have it properly, to have a proper exam.
And it's at 2 o'clock, Henk, as far as I remember seeing somewhere along the line.
Well, guys, what is the easier? Well, 9 to 12 or 2 to 5. What is the easier? Because we can still play around with that.
I think afternoon might be better because you can get the morning to study. But then again, I suppose your brains might be a bit tired in the afternoon.
What does other people say? Give me indication, guys. What do you prefer?
Morning.
Morning. Morning. What does other people say?
Yeah,
How about
I'm also
11?
with
11
morning.
a.m.
All right, still the morning name.
Yes, but not too
Okay.
early. How about 10, 11, 12 or 11, 12, 1?
Yeah,
Is it the open book?
No.
Mm-mm.
Closed book exam.
Okay.
Closed book exam. I've tried to get an open book exam, guys, but the authorities to be didn't want to play with me. You see, I'm one of those lecturers. I always try to make it. Well, I must be quite honest. An open book exam are not always easier than a closed book exam. All right. An open book exam can be a extremely difficult exam paper. Barend?
Just a question. Somebody already alluded to load shedding.
Yeah.
How are we going to be accommodated? Because not all the branches or all the people have generators or facilities. And I know in our initial kick-off a while ago, you guys said we need to go to the closest branch. We're rural. The closest branch is 150 odd kilometers away.
Okay, Barton. So and where you are, there is no generators or anything like that.
No, I'm fine. I'm
Oh, okay, but there are some people.
I'm thinking about the other people. I've got my own generator. If you don't have a generator by now, yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. So, Barton, thank you very much for that. I think what I need to do is just to send out a communication to everybody, and just to ask them, if they will have, backup power, and will they have things at either the branch or somewhere where they can write an exam and where we know that we'll have enough power. I will just try to establish to what extent, if there are people that don't have that facility. All right, Sarah say Mill Park was 10 to 1 would be great. Sorry, yeah, no, if you guys, I think most people have said morning, so I think that 10 to 1 seems to be a good idea. Yeah. So Rose, what we will need to do is we'll obviously need to look at, the kind of schedules for the load shedding, but let me send out a communication, because I would like to establish if there's anybody that may have some serious problems where they might not find either at the branch where they will have generators and where they can have a space there where they will sit and they know they will have power. Okay. And I think that's also the reason, ladies and gentlemen, why I, for example, will have some people on standby, so that if some of you might run into trouble, say, for example, the generator go down or for a moment something, go wrong, that you will be able to contact one of our staff members and just say, I've got a little bit of this problem or that problem. And, I can always then say, all right, 1 o'clock, and say, all right, I know that you have a little problem. I'll give you 10 minutes more, whatever, just finalize and finish off. So I'm really going to try to do the best for everybody. Our other option, obviously, is, again, ladies and gentlemen, is invigilating exams, which I know that I need then to appoint a lot of invigilators, because you guys are sitting all over the place, and then you sit in a venue and you have a person watching over you for 3 hours. And so, that was an option we have tried to anticipate, but then I also know that you guys were used to the proctored exam. So, and I know that the bank have actually asked that we continue with that way. So that's why I prefer to continue that way. But I am aware of all the eventualities, and some of these things are beyond our control. And specifically, if load shedding 6 is continuing, it might be a bit of a challenge. But I'll send out a communication. I'll ask some people feedback and to hear how many people may have may have a serious problem where they know, for example, they will not be able to manage in terms of appropriate time if it's load shedding and things like that. I will establish that, not a problem. Any other questions, guys? All right. So my suggestion to everybody at the moment is, guys, to start to prepare for your exam and can I tell you how you study leadership? You study it by reading, not by trying to memorize. Don't try to do that. Read and try to understand. Okay. I can promise you, if you follow that recipe, you will be successful in the exam paper. And look at the themes, the topics, and what you can do in the meantime, you know, where, for example, like just to say ethical leadership. In your preparation, when you look at keywords, start writing down examples. Think about examples, you know, phone a friend, right? And I don't mind, because I will not mind if you guys give even the same examples in your exam papers, in the exam. That will be fine if you've worked it out before the time. So talk to a friend, talk to a colleague, work on your examples, get some case there, share with each other, because that helps you to understand the topic. And leadership's about more understanding the topic than is try to memorize everything, right? So always keep that in mind. That will help you a lot. While management is a bit different than that, but we will talk about that when we come to that. All right, anybody else, guys? Okay. Right, then it seems like we are at the end of our session.